What are your whereabouts during draft, the 3-day stretch? Are you around the war room, or are you just kind of looking back?
No, I'm in my office. That's always like, so many people text me for the draft, hey, good luck. I'm like, yeah, I got to be honest. Like, that's not my area of expertise. Front office handles all that. So I'm in my office, but I'm in contact with people that are up in that war room. But I'm not, Monty's the one wheeling and dealing up there,
Do you get jazzed up when the pick's coming up and what you're hearing stuff, or is it just like, we're gonna get players this weekend, and whatever they give me, they give me?
So you're saying, do I get like kind of fired up as the pick's coming up?
Yeah, especially when there's defensive picks that happen.
Absolutely, yeah, no doubt. You can ask Kenny Bell. I'm usually kind of pacing around in his office because I don't really understand even what TV system we have at my house. So I have no way to like log on. Everyone's got YouTube TV and stuff or whatever they have, and I don't know. My wife handles all that, so I have no way of keeping up with the draft in my office. So I go to other people's office, and usually when that pick's coming up, I'm kind of, invading someone else's space, and I'm definitely fired up when we get the guys we want.
Along those lines, how much do you and the position coaches during the whole process
Yeah.
have input
Yeah,
on some of the individual
that's the bigger part that we obviously play as coaches in the draft. I think Monty, Sears, Kiss, the whole front office, they do a phenomenal job of bringing us in on that process and letting us evaluate each player. And really the big thing that we have to do is describe what vision do we have for that player, what role can he fill, and what we think of him. So they do a phenomenal job of taking everyone's input and hearing us out, and going from there to make the best decision that they feel like is best for the team.
You've brought in a lot of cornerbacks the last couple of years, which numbers-wise I'm sure is helpful. A lot of youth. Are you confident in the group behind Sean and being able to sort through all these guys?
Yeah, I'm excited about it because I think there's a lot of guys that can play and step into that starting role. So it's really good competition. This is going to be a fun rest of the OTAs and into training camp of seeing really good players go out there and compete for roles. So I'm excited about, all those guys.
How pumped about Max Melton?
I'm excited about all of them, but yeah, Max, I think he's got a really good skill set. To play corner, you're out there. We call it, you're on an island. You're in the fast lane, and you got to be able to run, and you got to be able to cover these elite receivers that are really all over the NFL. And Max has that skill set. He's got really good speed. He has feel to play the position. He can contest throws. Got long arms. So I think his ceiling is really high as a player. Excited to get to work with him.
Have you learned anything about going with 3 rookies as starters throughout their time?
Yeah, you're gonna put the best 11 on the field, and a lot of times that's not the same 11 throughout a game, right? So multiple people are going to contribute in different roles, and whether it's a rookie, whether it's a 10-year vet, you're putting the guys that you feel like put you in position that week to help you win the game.
When you found out that Darius Robinson was going to be the guy, how pumped were you to add him to the defense?
I mean, I was extremely excited because of, one, the guy, and then honestly, like, I spent some time with him at the combine, but when he got here, I was like, whoa, like, he's everything that we thought he was and more, as far as the guy, and then the skill set is really good. It fits what we want to do. He's going to give us some versatility. So yeah, super, super excited.
With Darius and the versatility, who's played inside and outside, what are you looking for to determine where you want him to play him mostly, and what's the timeline for when that decision has to be made before you're really in the thick of things?
I think with everything we do defensively does revolve around being adaptable. And it's not just Darius, but we'll ask several guys to be able to play multiple spots. And so I think it's going to just be kind of natural part of learning that position, those multiple positions. There's going to be a lot of guys doing that. So it just fits into, you could say like the curriculum of how we're going to teach things, where he's going to get reps at a lot of different spots.
How do you describe his attention to detail, Darius?
It's extremely impressive. I mean, the guy's on the draft stage talking about his hand placement. I mean, I think that says enough. Like, who talks about hand placement right when you get drafted? Most guys, hey, I'm coming to the city, excited to help him win. This guy's talking about his hand placement. So it's like that. I think that says it right there of how detailed he is. And, he did an interview after the draft, too, talking about his process in a week-to-week basis. And, I love when guys have a really good routine, because it means that they are making sure that they're checking every box of every facet of their game, whether that's scheme, technique, the physical, psychological, or their health. Like they take all of those into great consideration and really map out that plan of how do I maximize myself going into a game. So, yeah, detailed. Hand placement.
You guys have had a pretty significant overhaul to the defensive line in terms of adding pieces. Like, where you thought where the defensive line, because of injuries and everything, was at the end of last season compared to now, like, I assume you're happy with the improvements you've been able to make and where that might be able to take it.
Yeah, I mean, that's another room with, I think, really good competition throughout. One thing that stands out to me with some of the pieces we've added is leadership. It's unbelievable. Two guys that stand out to me is JJ and Bilal. Like, in the meetings, it's like they're coaches as well. And the dialogue that happens, we talk about having interactive meetings, just the dialogue that's happening in that defensive line room right now it's high intelligence, it's high leadership, it's just phenomenal. So excited about the players, and I'm really happy and excited going forward about the guys, the leaders.
Isn't that rare when you have guys that have been in the building for only about a month and a half and they're right away kind of assuming the role of a coach?
Yeah, sometimes. I don't know if it's rare. I guess, that can be case to case, but there's definitely a tendency maybe when you're a new guy to kind of walk slow and just get a feel for it. And, I think it's natural for them to be leaders. And I told them, like, you're not coming here as the new guy. You step right into the role of who you are and be yourself. And so they're just being themselves right now.
What's it like, sorry to interrupt there, what's it like coming into your second season now as a defensive coordinator? You feel like you grew a lot last year? You feel like you're much further ahead?
Yeah, I think I grow every year, to be honest. And I always look back and be like, man, remember 2 years ago when I didn't know anything? Man, I don't even know how I was functioning. So I think every year, I hope that, one day, many years out, I feel that same way, that every offseason I grow. You grow during the season. It's harder to feel those because you're so just in the thick of it. But in the off season, I think, the great thing about the NFL compared to maybe like, college level is you don't have to do recruiting. You can do a lot of work to increase your knowledge. And, that's something that I think that we as coaches collectively have done a really good job of. Each guy has enhanced their knowledge, and then we've shared that knowledge to the room. So I always talked about, like, when guys have to do a study on something, whether that's scheme, technique, whatever it is, how to teach better, I say that when you present this, you better increase the knowledge of the collective. And so, I credit a lot of the stuff that I've learned this offseason to my staff, to the offensive staff, to JG, of just being able to share that information and grow as coaches so that we can better serve the players, right? The better teachers we are, the more knowledge we have, the better that we can get them to really go out there and execute at a higher level. And, it starts in that meeting room and then it goes out on the field. So, yeah, I've hoped I've taken some strides intellectually, and I think the whole staff has.
With Adrian, Elijah, and Max.
Rabbit. Adrian goes by Rabbit. Let's just get that. Everyone good? Rabbit going forward? Yeah, Rabbit.
All those guys took the ball away at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
How can you get that to translate to the next level?
Well, we talk about how do we take the ball away. So we define all those things with how do you create interceptions, through batted passes, through contesting at the catch point. How do we create fumbles off of ball carriers, off of quarterbacks? And so we'll teach that stuff. We'll work it on the field, so it's part of what we do. And guys that can go out there and make it happen, like, they're the ones that make it happen. So the fact that they've made it happen, you can often see that start to carry over into whatever league they're playing. They take away in high school, they're going to take away in college. They take away in college, hopefully they're taking it away in the NFL. So, takeaways, that's a huge statistic as far as creating, a better chance to win a game, and so that's critical for us on defense.
You mentioned Justin and Bilal on the coaching and meetings. Did they have any familiarity, do you know, with this scheme before they came here? And how would you, characterize this scheme in terms of how it is for players to come in and learn it?
Yeah, I think one thing that ever since I've been with JG that we did as far as the scheme is we just kind of created our own terminology, what made sense. It's funny because like as you go with time, you realize as you start to build stuff, you start to create some crazy names that mean absolutely nothing. And in the moment, you're like, yeah, just call that zebra, right? Yeah, sure. Like, what the heck does zebra mean? So, like, I don't know if any of the terminology is similar, but they're familiar with some of the techniques that we'll use up front, whether that was their coaches in college or at the NFL level. And then they'll have some skill set stuff that is really good that they've had in the past that will help translate as well. So, terminology, you got to learn sometimes we tear our terminology down and make it better for the next season. But the principles remain the same. So yeah, they'll have some familiarity, but also some new stuff.
You mentioned Adrian fit into defensive scheme.
Yeah, rabbit. So, with all our safeties, and I've talked to the players about this, is some of the stuff we do, just asking them to cover receivers, right, at that safety position, and you can't do that with every safety. So I feel like the safety room we have now and Rabbit coming in fits that skill set of combination of being able to both cover slots and also play deep zones. So it fits right into a lot of those guys that we already have in the room and highly value that at that position.
And it's kind of a deep room right now. How does Xavier kind of crack that rotation between now and?
He's got to come in and compete. I mean, like you said, it's a deep room, a really good competition. And just like everybody, he's got to come in and be good in pass rush, run game, and coverage.
You mentioned creating new terminology on that. So in other words, you guys didn't bring over the same things you did in Philly.
No, some, right? Not 100%. It's never all or nothing. But, when we first got here as a staff, I wanted to make sure I used the brains of everybody. And so that, I had to be willing to adapt and change and make things better because it can always be better. And the game changes, the offenses change. So, the 2023, that's outdated. So even what we had for last year, that's not necessarily what you want to be doing in 2024. You got to be looking at how our offense is changing, evolving. What are they doing to put up points, generate explosives, and you have to be able to shift your defense to help take away certain things that you're going to anticipate seeing throughout the year. And then there's going to be things in 2024 that you're like, what is this? Like, when did this start happening? Like, gosh, this is hard. And then now you're going to start to adapt to that. You got to make a little bit of adjustment throughout the season. And then come 2025, we're going to look at our 2024 playbook and be like, that ain't it anymore, So every year you have to adapt and be able to change.
What are your expectations? You mentioned the outside linebacker room. I'm wondering what your expectations are. You got Zaven going into his second year at that spot and BJ going into his second year period. Like, for those two guys in particular, what kind of expectations do you have for them?
I mean, I want them to make strides in every aspect of their game. So I can't say there's anything particular. Every player has a specific improvement plan, which can be pretty detailed out as far as what it is. Maybe schematically they have to do better, or technique, and I'll kind of keep that between us. But they need to take strides. Everybody needs to take strides. It's not just those two in every part of their game. And I know that those two specifically, like they have really high ceilings, right? They can be really good players, and they were very productive for us last year, and hopefully they're even more productive for us this year.
Thomas, what'd you make of his speed? Because it was
yeah. And the thing that stands out with his speed is his get off, and he really stresses tackles to have to kick to get out to him, right? So. One thing I loved about that his speed brings to his game, specifically his pass rush, is his ability to win with speed and then transition to power. And he sets up those power rushes off of that speed that he has. So he is fast and he utilizes that skill set, and I think he does a really good job at that. I think for a rookie, I thought his pass rush technique was pretty polished up, and I hope it only just gets better when he gets here.
With Saban bouncing around positions, are you able to articulate kind of where his ceiling is and how far he needs to go?
Yeah, it's I think 32.8 feet. Yeah, that's a hard question. I just throw that word ceiling out there. That's just infinite. Hopefully we break through whatever that ceiling is. But what's the question?
About Saban, especially not having the fifth-year option picked up and just how he approaches this year. And you mentioned how good you think he can be. What's the next step for him?
Yeah, well, to start, like, Zaven is so unique because has such a good skill set and he's so smart. So I could ask this guy to do anything, right? And that presents issues for offenses and allows us to do a lot of different things defensively because he can fit in so many roles. So I love that part of his game. And, you know, we ask him to do a lot and he handles it. And then, you know, second year at the position, you know, he's only going to get better at what that position specifically requires. Because obviously he took majority of snaps on the edge, right? And so we're talking about setting edges in the run game. We're talking about winning one-on-one pass rush. And then you're talking about dropping into coverage. And so, you know, each of those three things for just that outside linebacker, if we just said, hey, outside linebacker only, you know, you improve on all those things, like you're becoming a really overall well-balanced player, really good outside backer.
How much versatility with the new DBs coming in do you think there is joining the group, and whether it's corner, whether it's safety, slot, inside, outside, with the guys even from last year like Garrett or whoever?
Yeah, it's very nice because I think everybody in that room right now, both the safety room and the corner room, and then the guys that we're bringing in, I think everybody can play multiple positions. So that's corners that can play nickel, nickels that can play corner, that's safeties that can play nickel, that's nickels that can play safety. And when you have that flexibility, it allows you to, you know, one, be adaptable with whoever's on the field, but two, when you go into a game week, what do we have to do to put the best guys on the field to win the game? And when guys can play multiple spots and they're intelligent enough to do so, you can shift pieces around and do what you ever have to do on a week-to-week basis. So I love where we're at right now as far as guys that can play multiple positions, whether they're here or we're bringing them in. And, you know, that the big thing with that is, like, how do you plan to rep that? So that it's one thing to know it in the meeting room, but it's another thing to actually be able to go out on the field and process it. And you have to be cognizant of making sure you master a spot, or, you know, you strive for mastery in a position, but then you start to dabble in those other spots where you know that they have flexibility to, if you ever need to shift a guy around, that they can go play that spot.
Bunting is really the only veteran in that room. I know you've only been on the field and not even in real practice, limited times with him, but at least from film or meeting rooms, I mean, what have you gathered from him and what he's going to add to that room?
Yeah, serious about ball, leader. His tape has shown that he can play in this league at a high level. You know, he's in my office in the morning wanting to dive into deeper levels than we've been able to cover now for, this is week 3. Like, you know, we've only been able to cover so much, and he's asking for more information. He wants to know the why behind everything. So phenomenal pro. Absolutely a leader in that room, leader of the defense. You know, that kind of goes back into, you know, new guys come in, don't come in, you know, just kind of stepping slow, trying to fit in. No, forget that. Like, be yourself, take it over, because I know who you are, he knows who he is, and he's done so far.
With that, are there vets that you kind of point rookies to kind of follow and shadow their process?
All our vets, you know. There's so many guys that you can look up to on this defense, on this team. It doesn't have to just be in your position, too. And I encourage the vets to, you know, lead the way. And, you know, one thing we talk about is communication. Like, it could be, you know, allowed that a guy, a veteran, a starter, a really good player, goes throughout his business, kind of keeps to himself, but that's not going to help better the team. And so, you know, I said, it's your job responsibility that everyone in this room communicate to each other, communicate to the coaches, performance staff, nutrition, everybody. Like, communication is so critical in many ways. So opening up that communication and saying, hey, I expect this from you guys. I know it's not in your job description, but it is, right? I want you guys to communicate what you like, what you don't like, what could be changed, because I'm all ears for those guys. So I want them to communicate with me, and I want them to communicate with each other, because they're going to help each other. And the better each individual is, the better we are as a team.
What do you
Elijah
think he
Jones, Bonnie and JG said that his film work reminded him of Garrett Williams, just his recall.
Yes, absolutely. He walked out of that combine interview. I was like, oh, Garrett? Was that Garrett in here?
What else about him stood out to you?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that interview. It was impressive. I mean, I kid you not. I was sitting there taking notes. I was like, gosh, this is a great way to prepare. Like, we should like add this into our regimen. Like, it was an unbelievable process that he takes into a week-to-week basis, like studying the opponent. But as far as the skill set, we talk about you're on the highway out there, like he can run. You know what I'm saying? He can play press man, he can bail, and he can play a zone. He can cover a lot of ground if he has to overlap in a deep zone. And then, one thing that really stands out with him is he can finish on the ball. We talked about the interceptions, but just the contests, the batted passes, playing through the triangle, getting the ball out last second on a receiver, like it pops out on the tape. So really excited about that. He's a long dude, bit tall, 6'1", long arms. He can really finish on balls.
What do you think how's Keytrail's mindset coming into this year?
Keytrail's got an assassin mindset. He's got an assassin mindset. That's one thing that he is very, ever since he walked in this building, you could see that he's wired the right way. And I always talk about, we're always having to get better psychologically, right? And we take that very serious here on how we can develop it. And he's got that mindset where he's extremely resilient. He knows he can be a great player, and he shows up every day and works. And he hasn't changed one bit from when he was starting to then he wasn't starting a couple games. He was the same guy all the time. And that's going to carry him a long way. Just that work ethic, that mindset. He's wired the right way.
You mentioned Darius' versatility. Do you primarily see him going into this rookie minicamp on the inside or outside, or where do you primarily see him?
Yeah, he'll be in the defensive line room, but he'll have to do a lot of different things along with those other defensive linemen. Rookie minicamp specifically, we're taking baby steps. So that'll be up to Derek what he wants to install initially and what he wants to work on the field. But, over the course of the offseason, he's going to have to do a lot of different things.
Seeing Kyzir back working out in meeting rooms, not wearing a sling, none of that.
Yeah. Leader, runs the defense, green dot. It's huge that he's back. He's a captain for a reason. So he makes the team better, makes the defense better, makes the linebacker room better. I love the guy. Obviously, I've been with him now for 3 years, and his attitude every day is special. He's got a big smile on his face, and it's fun to see him back out there on the field.
And Mac Wilson, how do you view him in your scheme?
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Very versatile, again, right? Can play multiple positions. So he's going to do a lot for us, just like we ask a lot of guys to do. His skill set is one that can play inside. We say he's a heavy-handed dude. He can sit in there and thump, and he also has that strength to play on the edge. One thing that surprised me a little bit when I turned on that New England tape is, man, he was rushing really well off the edge, which I didn't necessarily realize coming out of college that he had that in him. So skill set is huge. He can do a lot of different things, and he will do a lot of different things for us.
When you talk about the defensive versatility of all these guys,
Yeah.
is that based more on strategical ideas where we want to be able to play these guys so the other team doesn't know where they are? Is it based on like, hey, if somebody's not playing well or gets hurt, then we have that option? What's the main focus of why you want all this?
All the above. Yeah. I mean, you kind of said it right there, right? That ability to put people on the field and offenses don't know where they're going to be. Or someone loses their shoe. This guy's just sitting here talking about injury. Someone loses their shoe. You get shoe club. Then you have the ability to flex people around and put whoever you need to put on the field to win the game. But you don't have to be pigeonholed into running specific schemes just because only these guys are available. Well, he can go play this spot and he can play this spot, and we can still do whatever we feel like we need to do scheme-wise to go against this opponent we're playing, whether we're trying to take away a certain guy or take away what their scheme presents, all of that. Does that make sense?